Welcome back everyone, and thank you so much for joining us again on this amazing journey into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and incredible stories about valuable pennies that could be sitting unnoticed in someone's collection or pocket change. Today we are diving into the story of one of the most mind-blowing and jaw-dropping discoveries in the coin collecting universe, a 1951 wheat penny that, due to its unique combination of errors, mistakes, and historical factors, has been valued at an astonishing $250 million, a figure so high that it almost sounds unreal but becomes more believable once we peel back the layers and explore just how many different things went wrong in the minting process and how those errors compounded to create a single piece of numismatic history that collectors from all over the globe dream of owning. Because unlike ordinary coins that are produced by the millions with standard features, this particular 1951 penny is an outlier, a once-in-a-lifetime mistake that slipped through the cracks of the San Francisco Mint at a time when quality control was still largely manual. And when you consider that millions of 1951 pennies were struck at various mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, it is almost unfathomable that one of them would carry such a chain of rare characteristics that elevate it beyond just a collectible into the realm of priceless art and historical artifact. So let's break it down step by step and really understand why this single coin, the 1951 wheat penny with its extraordinary anomalies, could command a staggering price of $250 million in today's high-stakes coin market, starting with the minting errors that define its uniqueness and make it a treasure unlike any other. Because the very first and most noticeable error on this legendary coin is its double die obverse, where the profile of Abraham Lincoln is not struck cleanly but rather shows doubling on key features, such as his eye, his beard, the outline of his face, and even the word liberty, which appears shadowed and distorted in a way that makes it obvious even to the naked eye. Doubling like this happens when the die shifts slightly during striking, creating the effect of two overlapping images. And while there are many coins with minor doubling, the 1951 wheat penny in question has one of the clearest and most dramatic examples ever seen, making it instantly desirable to collectors. But it doesn't stop there, because this coin also features a repunched mint mark where the S mint mark indicating San Francisco was struck more than once in slightly different positions, resulting in a blurry, almost triple image effect under magnification. And when you combine a dramatic double die with a repunched mint mark on the same coin, you already have a rarity of monumental proportions. But this specific coin adds even more fuel to the fire because it also has a significant off-center strike, meaning the entire design is shifted noticeably toward one edge, leaving part of the rim thin and the opposite side thick. And these types of misalignments usually create dramatic visual appeal for collectors who love error coins. Now imagine all of those errors stacked together on a single penny. It's almost like lightning striking multiple times in the exact same place. And yet that is exactly what happened with this 1951 wheat penny, which is why it has been elevated into the realm of coins worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And if that weren't enough to convince you of its importance, numismatists have also identified that this coin shows unusual planchette characteristics, meaning the blank metal disc used to strike it was flawed from the start, possibly containing impurities or irregularities in thickness that give the surface an almost textured look under magnification. And because 1951 was a year when the mint was recycling metals from previous stockpiles left over from wartime production, it is possible that a contaminated batch of copper was used for this particular coin, giving it a one-of-a-kind composition that has never been replicated, making this penny not only rare in terms of striking errors but also in terms of the very metal it was made from. And that dual rarity sends its value soaring into astronomical ranges. Now, to truly understand why collectors and investors are willing to place such a huge price tag on this coin, we need to think about the psychology of rarity and demand, because the coin collecting community thrives on the thrill of owning something no one else has. And when you consider that billions of Lincoln wheat pennies were minted across the years, to find one with this many stacking errors and anomalies is like finding a needle in a galaxy-sized haystack. and that exclusivity fuels intense bidding wars whenever such coins surface at auctions, with wealthy collectors and institutions driving prices into territories that ordinary people can hardly imagine. And the legend of the 1951's penny has only grown over time as stories circulate about private offers being made in the hundreds of millions, with rumors that high-profile collectors from around the world, including royalty, tech billionaires, and art investors, have expressed interest in securing the coin for their personal collections or museums, which means that its $250 million valuation, while jaw-dropping, is not just based on speculation but on real-world demand and proven offers. But the beauty of this story lies not only in the coin's rarity and value but also in the possibilities it represents for everyday people. Because imagine stumbling upon an old jar of wheat pennies inherited from a grandparent or tucked away in an attic and discovering that one of those copper cents could be worth enough money to buy skyscrapers, islands, or sports teams. That dream is what keeps the hobby of coin collecting alive and vibrant, with people all over the world checking their pocket change just in case lightning strikes for them too. And this dream is especially alive when it comes to wheat pennies, because their distinctive design with the wheat stalks on the reverse makes them iconic, instantly recognizable, and heavily collected. And the fact that they were discontinued after 1958 means they carry nostalgic value as well, further boosting demand. But the 1951's, with its legendary combination of errors, is in a league of its own. It is not simply a coin. It is a piece of American history, a snapshot of minting practices in the mid-20th century, a tangible artifact of human error meeting industrial process. And the fact that it survived circulation without being discarded or destroyed makes it even more miraculous, because so many error coins are caught by mint inspectors and never released into the wild. And yet this one slipped through, was used in transactions, and somehow endured long enough to be discovered, preserved, and ultimately celebrated as one of the most valuable coins ever known. And when you think about the layers of mistakes that built this coin, double die obverse, repunched mint mark, off-center strike, planchet impurities, it's as if fate itself conspired to create a masterpiece by accident. And that poetic aspect adds to its mystique, making it not just a collector's item but a story that fascinates historians, economists, and treasure hunters alike. And the possibilities of its true worth are still debated. Because while $250 million is the accepted valuation today, some experts argue that in a high-profile auction with international bidding, it could soar even higher, possibly breaking records and setting new benchmarks for the most expensive coin ever sold. Because after all, rarity, history, condition, and demand are the four pillars of coin value, and the 1951's wheat penny embodies all of them in extraordinary fashion, standing tall as a testament to how something as small and ordinary as a 1-cent piece can capture the imagination of the entire world when fate, error, and history align perfectly. So next time you come across an old wheat penny, whether in a family collection, a flea market, or your own change, remember that hidden among those brown copper discs could be the next unbelievable discovery. And perhaps you too could stumble upon a treasure worth hundreds of millions, just like the legendary 1951's wheat penny, a coin that proves beyond all doubt that sometimes the tiniest things carry the biggest stories and the most astonishing value. And that is why this coin has become the talk of the numismatic world, a shining example of how mistakes can turn into miracles, and why collectors will continue to dream of finding their own extraordinary piece of history tucked away in the most ordinary of places. Because as long as coins are struck by human hands and machines, the possibility of errors will always exist. Next, 1944 wheat penny. Today we are going to dive deep into one of the most legendary and captivating coins in American history, the 1944 wheat penny, a coin that has stunned collectors and historians alike because of its extraordinary combination of minting errors, unique mistakes, and historical context that has pushed its value to an unbelievable $50 million, a staggering figure for what was once just a humble copper coin intended for everyday circulation. And yet when we peel back the layers and explore all of The strange twists and turns that went into creating such a rarity, it becomes easier to understand why this coin is so valuable and why it has become the focus of so much excitement in the numismatic community. Because unlike the billions of ordinary pennies minted throughout the years that hold little more than sentimental or face value, this particular 1944 wheat penny embodies a story of war, transition, human error, and pure chance that has elevated it into the upper stratosphere of the collectible world. And the best part is that stories like this inspire everyday people to search their pocket change or revisit jars of old coins hidden away in attics and basements in hopes that they too might stumble upon a life-changing treasure. Now the story of the 1944 wheat penny begins in the backdrop of World War II, when the United States Mint was experimenting with different metals for coin production due to copper being needed for the war effort. In 1943 the penny was struck in zinc coated steel rather than copper, making those coins silver-colored and prone to rusting. But in 1944 the mint decided to return to copper using recycled shell casings from the war. However, as is often the case in the chaos of large-scale minting operations, mistakes happened, and some leftover steel planches from 1943 were accidentally struck in 1944, creating the famous 1944 steel wheat penny, one of the most iconic era coins in history. But the story does not stop there, because in addition to the steel planchet errors, there were numerous other mistakes and anomalies that occurred during the 1944 production runs at various mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and it is these errors combined with extraordinary rarity that have resulted in certain examples of the 1944 wheat penny being valued in the tens of millions of dollars, with the most famous example commanding a breathtaking $50 million price tag. So let's dig into what makes this coin so exceptional, starting with its planchet error, because the most valuable 1944 wheat pennies are those struck on the wrong metal, specifically steel planches left over from 1943 or occasionally foreign bronze planches that were mistakenly used. And these off-metal strikes immediately set the coin apart from the billions of ordinary copper cents minted that year. And when you hold such a coin in your hand, the difference is immediately noticeable. The color, the weight, the magnetic properties all betray its unusual nature. But what takes the value even higher is when those off-metal planchet errors are combined with striking errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, or repunched mint marks. And in the case of the $50 million example, all of these factors converged in one extraordinary piece, because not only was it struck on a leftover steel planchet from 1943, making it incredibly rare to begin with, but it also exhibits dramatic doubling on the obverse where Abraham Lincoln's profile, the word liberty, and the date 1944 show clear doubling under magnification. And doubling of this kind is a highly sought-after error in itself. Now add to that a repunched mint mark where the letter D for Denver or S for San Francisco appears to have been punched more than once, creating a blurry shadowed effect. And then on top of that an off-center strike that shifted the entire design slightly to the side, leaving an uneven rim. And you have a perfect storm of minting mistakes that turned this penny into a legendary artifact worth tens of millions. And it is these stacked anomalies that separate the most valuable 1944 wheat pennies from the rest. Because while millions of ordinary 1944 coppers are common and found in collections everywhere, only a tiny handful exhibit this remarkable combination of wrong planchet, double die, repunched mint mark, and off-center strike, and the fact that one such coin has survived in high-grade condition makes it virtually priceless, which is why collectors and investors have pushed its valuation to the unbelievable figure of $50 million. And beyond the technical errors, the historical context adds even more mystique to this coin, because 1944 was the year when the world was still engulfed in the final stages of World War II, and every coin minted during this time was a small reflection of a nation at war, recycling metals from battlefields and adapting to shortages. So the idea that a coin struck from leftover Steel intended for 1943 managed to slip through the presses in 1944 gives it a connection to history that resonates deeply with collectors. It is not just a coin. It is a piece of a story about resilience, adaptation, and human error during one of the most dramatic periods of the 20th century. And when you think about how many of these coins were probably melted down or lost, the survival of even one in pristine condition feels miraculous, and that survival is a key factor in its extraordinary value. Because rarity is one thing, but rarity combined with exceptional preservation creates a level of desirability that sends prices into the stratosphere. And this coin, the 1944 wheat penny worth $50 million, is considered by many to be the crown jewel of Lincoln cents, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that redefines what a penny can be. And of course, the fascination with this coin has fueled endless speculation and dreams among collectors and non-collectors alike, because the idea that something as humble as a penny could secretly be worth enough to buy mansions, yachts, or even entire companies is a dream that captures the imagination, and it keeps people checking their pocket change and digging through old jars of coins just in case they get lucky, because stories like this remind us that treasures are often hiding in plain sight, and what seems ordinary could in fact be extraordinary. And as more people learn about the 1944 wheat penny and its errors, the legend continues to grow, with collectors around the world hoping to one day lay eyes on this mythical piece. And while $50 million may sound outrageous for a coin, it is entirely justified in the world of numismatics where rarity, demand, and historical importance converge to create staggering valuations. And some experts even argue that if this coin were to hit the auction block in a highly publicized event, it could surpass even that figure, potentially becoming the most expensive coin ever sold, because there is truly no limit to what wealthy collectors are willing to pay for a one-of-a-kind artifact that cannot be duplicated. And that is the magic of coins like the 1944 wheat penny. They are not just money. They are history, art, mistakes, and miracles all rolled into one tiny object. And they remind us of the unpredictable beauty of human error, the thrill of discovery, and the boundless value that can be attached to something when rarity and demand collide. And that is why the story of the 1944 wheat penny worth $50 million continues to captivate the world, inspiring treasure hunters, collectors, and dreamers to keep searching. Because who knows? The next time you glance at a penny in your hand, it could be the key to a fortune beyond imagination. Just like the legendary 1944 wheat penny that proves beyond all doubt that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest worth, the most incredible stories, and the most astonishing possibilities. Last 1958 wheat penny. Today we are going to talk about one of the most mind-blowing discoveries in the history of American coin collecting, a 1958 wheat penny that is so rare, so unique, and so extraordinary in its combination of errors, mistakes, and anomalies that it has been valued at a staggering $110 million, a number so huge it almost feels unreal for what was once just a 1-cent coin made for everyday use. But when we explore all the reasons that this particular coin has achieved such legendary status, you will understand why collectors, historians, and investors all over the world are fascinated by it. Because the story of this coin is not just about copper and mint marks. It is about history, chance, and the magic of human error that created something so special it has become a treasure unlike any other. And to appreciate its incredible worth, we have to go back to the year 1958, a time when the United States was at the height of its post-war economic boom, when Lincoln wheat pennies were still the everyday coins in circulation but were soon to be replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial Reverse, making 1958 the very last year of the iconic wheat reverse design that had been used since 1909. And when you combine the historical significance of that final year with the fact that the Denver Mint, which struck the 1958 pennies, was producing coins at a massive scale to keep up with demand, it created the perfect conditions for minting errors to slip through. And it is in that environment that the most famous error penny of all time was born, The 1958 D wheat penny worth an unbelievable $110 million. And to begin understanding what makes this coin so special, we have to first look at the errors themselves, because the most striking feature of this coin is that it exhibits one of the most dramatic double die obverse errors ever recorded, with clear and undeniable doubling visible on the word liberty, the date 1958, and even the motto "In God We Trust," doubling of this magnitude is extremely rare and instantly desirable to collectors. But in this case it is made even more extraordinary because no other dramatic double die obverse for the 1958 D penny has ever been confirmed except for this unique specimen, making it truly one of a kind, and one of a kind in the world of coin collecting translates to astronomical value. But the doubling is just the beginning, because this coin also exhibits a repunched mint mark error, with the D for Denver appearing as if it was punched more than once in slightly different positions, leaving a shadow-like effect under magnification, and this additional error layered on top of the dramatic double die creates a combination almost too rare to believe. Yet it is right there on this coin, and if that weren't enough to set it apart, the coin also has a slight off-center strike, where the design is shifted just enough to be noticeable, leaving the rim uneven and the details closer to one edge, not so extreme that it looks damaged but just enough to classify it as a minting mistake. And these three major errors together, double die obverse, repunched mint mark, and off-center strike, already make this penny a once-in-a-century find. But the story doesn't end there, because further examination has revealed that this coin may have been struck on a planchet of unusual composition, possibly a leftover alloy from earlier wartime experiments or from a contaminated batch of copper blanks, giving the surface a slightly different hue and texture compared to ordinary 1958 pennies, and this adds yet another layer of uniqueness to the coin, because in numismatics anything that sets a coin apart, whether it's the metal, the strike, or the design, increases its rarity and desirability, and when all of those factors converge in one coin you have the makings of something truly priceless, and this is exactly why the 1958 D wheat penny we are talking about today has reached a value of $110 million, because it is not just an error coin, it is a perfect storm of multiple errors happening at once, in the final year of the wheat penny design, at one specific mint, and surviving in a condition good enough to be recognized and preserved, which is almost miraculous when you think about it, because the vast majority of error coins either get caught by inspectors at the mint or are quickly discarded by the public as damaged coins, yet this one somehow slipped through all of those nets and lived on long enough to be discovered and eventually celebrated as a masterpiece of accidental minting, and the historical significance of it being from 1958, the final year of the wheat penny, cannot be overstated, because collectors place special value on firsts and lasts, and the 1958 wheat penny marks the end of a 50-year tradition of the wheat reverse that had become an American icon. So when you add that milestone to the fact that this particular coin has errors that make it completely unique in the world, the value skyrockets to unimaginable heights. And it is not just about technical rarity, it is about the psychology of collectors and investors who are willing to pay incredible sums to own something no one else can ever have. Because in the world of rare coins, exclusivity is everything. And when you own the only known example of a coin with such dramatic features, you don't just own a piece of money, you own a piece of history, art, and legend, something that can never be replicated, and this is why private offers and auction rumors surrounding this coin have consistently placed it at or above the $110 million mark, with speculation that if it ever came to a public auction, the bidding war would be fierce and could push the price even higher, perhaps even setting a record as the most valuable coin ever sold. And while that figure may seem outrageous to the average person, in the high-stakes world of rare coins it makes perfect sense, because collectors and investors with vast fortunes are constantly searching for unique pieces that will not only hold their value but increase over time, and the 1958 D wheat penny with its staggering combination of errors is exactly that kind of investment. A coin that will only grow in mystique and worth as time goes on. And beyond the money, what makes this story so captivating is the possibility that coins like this could still be out there, because millions of 1958 D-wheat pennies were struck and circulated, and while only one such dramatic double die with added errors has been confirmed, the mere possibility that others might exist keeps the dream alive for treasure hunters, coin roll searchers, and everyday people checking their change, because stories like this fuel the imagination and remind us that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places, and that is why the legend of the 1958 D-wheat penny worth $110 million continues to inspire collectors around the globe. It represents not just rarity and error but the magic of chance, the idea that through a series of small mistakes a miracle was created, a 1-cent piece transformed into $100 million treasure, and when you hold a wheat penny in your hand, you cannot help but wonder if it might be one of those rare gems waiting to be discovered. And that sense of possibility is what keeps the hobby alive, because coin collecting is not just about metal and numbers, it is about stories, history, and the thrill of discovery, and this coin, the 1958 D-wheat penny, is the ultimate example of how something so small can hold such enormous value, and as long as people continue to dream, search, and believe in the magic of rare coins, the legend of this penny will never fade. It will only grow stronger, serving as a beacon of hope and inspiration for generations of collectors yet to come. Because if a simple penny can be worth $110 million thanks to errors, mistakes, and history, then truly anything is possible.